it may be silly to talk about breathing, but for me this points something quite interesting. Physiological response of what we do in our mind. In other words, mind and breathing has a correlation. So by thinking, we can stop our breathing or slow down or fasten. But if we are sleeping, breathing takes place naturally. So on one end, you can control. On the other end, you are controlled by the way of nature. And that's the main point to focus on to know ourselves, as in the case of anapana, the meditation of breathing, or it can also lead to the inner body sensation, how the mind is connected to the body. But just focusing on the breathing, I had some interesting experience. I was watching a video from PBS on Holocaust. And I think this is the third episode. As much as previous two episodes, I had some difficulty of digesting what happened. It's a sad story. And also some of the bureaucracy, the way people behave, things that could have done better wasn't get done because of the bureaucratic process. So on this third episode, halfway into it, and so sad to see how things happen and not happen, happened in terms of killing people, Jews, and not happen in terms of not help relieving them, say, coming to the U.S. But the bureaucracy stopped them to come, and therefore every day more people killed. And the staggering number is 5 to 6 million of the Jews killed. So I had to stop. And at the time I didn't think much about it, but that's the physiological sense that I felt. And that is exactly the point what the meditation on breathing point to. If you know physiological response of what you're doing is causing harm, like you need to breathe fresh air than just watching, that is an insight, important insight. And if we don't have that insight, just like I said in other areas, maybe your stomach is hurting, but you keep doing your job. Unhealthy. So we have to have a balance of the mind, how we use the mind, not to be used. And for that to happen, knowing this biofeedback or physiological response of what's going on is critical. So, of course, I stopped watching. Maybe I walked around, trees, leaves, sky, clouds. To change my mental state or breathe in fresh air, refresh myself. The point I found also interesting is that previously I posted the video about the breathing, and this is related to the practice people did in Japan. Those are the laymen, ordinary people in Shin Buddhism. And two Myokonins, they are the devotees for Shin Buddhism. The idea is Namu Amidabutsu, which means I let go myself for the Amida to help me. Simple idea. And Saichi and Kichibe, I think, was the other guy's name. Different time, different space, place in Japan, said the same thing. Because the idea there was both talking that they connect to Amida Buddha, which to me is like a way of nature or infinite intelligence. or some may call God instead of Amida Buddha. To me, it's pretty much the same. For their help, they call Namu Amidabutsu. And their way of living is so devoted, and their poem, the idea they shared is something like, I breathe in the air, and Amida Buddha comes into me, and I breathe out, and all the dirty or delusional thought goes out. Or it can be seen as the fresh air and oxygen comes in as you breathe in, and as you breathe out, all the processed CO2 go out. So it's a natural process, the way of nature functioning. But as you may or I would remember, when you are focused doing something, sometimes or more often than not, you hold your breath. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? Even playing the pickleball, which I do often, you need to breathe. Otherwise, you won't last. So it's just a conscious effort to get used to it so that you breathe naturally and get the fresh air comes in. So, back to the Holocaust discussion. I had to get out from watching it. That's too much. Terrible situation. Need to get the air. So I did that. And later, in the same evening, actually, because I posted the YouTube video on that subject about Holocaust, I could sense that breathing is more clear to me, that I can notice in and out and refreshing. And I often said I can get into the zone or blissful sensation by just noticing it. But usually my noticing is on the inner body sensation, the fingers and feet and vibration, and I feel this transparency. And I call Waku Waku the sense of aliveness within myself. That's the gyroscope that I keep saying that I need to monitor by paying attention to that and not losing the monitoring of the aliveness, then you get into trouble. So it's a biofeedback mechanism that I notice. But when I noticed that evening or this morning, I often felt that, wow, something is happening, and that oxygen, the sense of air, had so much potency, so to speak. And then this Waku Waku sensation, the aliveness and the sense of gratitude of being alive, connecting to the root of who we are, the law of nature or Amida Buddha, whatever the term, the God. It's so powerful. This is the experiential insight, the wisdom, not to be found on the document, on the book, but to be verified and be aware of what's happening within ourselves. That's the name of the game, to be equanimous by having that monitoring, detecting sensation and adjusting not by the mind but by the way of nature, so that you have more balanced, peaceful, appreciating life kind of a sense. So later, as I was posting this video on the YouTube, in the process that often happens, something triggered me about this breathing, and I remember the posting of the breathing by the Myokonin, Saichi, and the Kichibe. So I just listened to that. Profound. It's simple, obvious. Breathe in, breathe out. Amida Buddha comes in, or the law of nature to prevail, or God to come in, if that's the term you like. And you have this aliveness, vivid sense of Waku Waku. And it's refreshing and make you feel perky with gratitude of what not you, but the law of nature is doing for me. or for you if you do that. So it could be seen as a small example, but every day's moment we go through in life is a connection of small moment. And if we notice early, you get into the groove, into the zone, for example, one way of saying. But if we don't notice, you get caught up. So the little thing is not little, because it's accumulate over days, months, years of your life to move more in tune to the way you can versus not in tune to the way with the law of nature, or you're living sincerely and truthfully, relating to what you can. So I may be seeing crazy, just picking the little things. But why I do this? Because that is enriching. It's amazing to realize who I am, what I can, and the idea of thy will be done, the law of nature to take place, so that I'm happy being, or having this blissful sensation of aliveness. In the video I posted on Holocaust, I was pointing about the emptiness. And that's another story, but there's a connection to that sense of emptiness, to this breathing. Both are pointing something fundamental, to be rooted, for us to be rooted with the way of nature. There's nothing in there from the point of view of the mind, so you may see it emptiness, or koku, I said in there, like a blue sky, or transparency. I can see that transparency, and that's what Saichi and Kichibe was talking in the other video about breathing. So if you're interested, please take a look. You may find this seemingly subtle issue in life may have a profound impact, even to the point I was thinking about Holocaust situation. What would I do if I were in that situation? What would Saichi or Kichibe do in that situation? If I think of them, I'm sure they would just say Namu Amidabutsu. I let go of whatever I can for the vow of Amida, for Amida to take over. And I mentioned about my sacred. The suffering doesn't exist if you have faith in God. All that comments is pointing the same. And more we discover those pointing and be part of that experience, I think that's the way of spiritual life, with gratitude and happiness. Maybe difficult to talk because it's subjective experience, but I'm more and more certain this is a path that I'm confirming and moving on. If you can join me or share the comment or question, I'll be most happy to connect with you. Thank you.